Hey, Worship Stream, day three. It's been a great 2 days so far. Day three, we're really excited today. We're going to focus on the production going on inside the church. I've got Jessica here with me from Absen, and she's going to talk to us all about Absen video walls, which is a great way to increase engagement and turn your service into more than just a service, but an actual event with better audience participation and cool stuff like that. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Gary. I'm so glad to be with you all today, and I'm really excited about our audience that we have with us and how we can talk about how LED could potentially, increase interaction with your audience and then give you some opportunities for additional revenue and things like that.
Cool. Now, today's show, of course, is a long show, so we're going to talk to you about the Absen video walls with Jessica. Then we're going to have a how to pick the right camera for your stage or solution with Ryan Snyder from Canon. And at the end, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to use that event space where you guys host your weddings, events, and parties like that, and turn that and increase the revenue for that space. And then we're going to have a Q&A and final prizes. Correct, guys? So without further ado, let's start the actual worship stream show for Absen, House of Worship. Take it away.
Thanks, Gary. Again, like I said earlier, so glad to be with everyone today. And this is something that's really, really important to me. I've been in LED technology for the last 15 years. I love this side of the industry. Had the chance to work within a house of worship for 10 years before that, and then just really understanding how technology can drive and impact our services. So as someone who now works for an LED manufacturer, I think it's important for you to understand who we are and then why we would be a good partner for you for your next LED project. So Absen is, like I said earlier, an LED manufacturer. We've been around for about 15 years, and we are the #1 LED manufacturer in the world. What we mean by that is no one exports more product into the entire world than Absen Corporation. We are vertically based solutions, allowing us to really do a lot of different opportunities, from basketball courts to house of worship to stadiums. We do basically, if there's a need for an LED, we have a solution for that. And then we're very, very focused on specific relationships in house of worship and then corporate retail, things of that nature as well.
Now, before we get into that, I think it's important to let people know that, well, the Absen LED walls are made in China, and I'm very excited about that because I'm going to be going with you to China in a couple of weeks to visit the factory and get a tour. I'm super excited about that. But Absen has a complete U.S. operation. And that U.S. operation doesn't just include someone on the phone. It's technicians, it's pre-sales, it's post-sales. You'll draw up rooms for people, and you actually do the white glove installation. So if you're a dealer looking to get into house of worship, you're going to get it installed by the manufacturer. If you're the house of worship worried about what's the quality of my video walls, who's going to install it, you're getting the top quality walls in the world with the best LEDs being delivered and installed by the experts who are the same engineers sometimes who design the system for you. I think that's so important. Not all LED video walls are created the same.
No, absolutely not. That's a very good point. As Gary stated, we are a Chinese manufacturer, but we've been in the United States for over 12 years. With that being said, there's about 45 of us who work for Absen United States. Like Gary stated earlier, we are very, very focused on making sure you have the best customer service interaction from, if you're a dealer or integrator, or if you're a house of worship in general. We want to make sure that you have the best solution for what you're trying to accomplish. And with that, we have a few different products that we want to be able to talk to you about today. And we've kind of built this as like a 3 different option approach, and just kind of like what this could mean for you from an LED type perspective. So the 3 products that we actually stock with Broadfield, the NX series, the PL 2.5, and then the Icon X series as well. These are great solutions for a wide variety of applications across the entire house of worship campus. And we'll get into that in just a second. But first, let's take a look at the PL 2.5. This is one of the flagship products that we have for the house of worship market. If you are someone that's watching, how do I say this? One of the top, web streams or broadcasts of the house of worship market, you're looking at one of those guys. More than likely, it's one of these products, like the PL 2.5. You're going to see a 2.5 mil pixel pitch at a 500 by 500 cabinet. and it's going to be plenty of bright. But beyond that, the refresh rate is going to be amazing at 7680. So what that means is your camera on camera, it's going to look flicker free, and then there's going to be no issues. That grayscale, drive mode are all industry standard for live event production. And then contrast at 70,000 to 1 or 7,001 rather, it's going to make sure that you have plenty of dynamic range within your video broadcast.
Now that's a lot of specs that I think are going to blow away a lot of house worship. So I want to simplify this a little bit on why these screens are especially good for house of worship, and that is oftentimes you'll have the preacher or the band or the choir in front of one of these screens, and if you point a video camera at the talent in front of one of those screens, this is a screen that's going to look great. You're not going to have more raying. You're not going to get blurred out. You're going to actually be able to have the person who's on stage almost interacting with what's ever behind them on the stage. Like we have this virtual set here, but you can have video coming in. You can have whatever you want. So the experience is really a live event experience, like you would get if you went to see a concert in your local, concert hall, or your local when your basketball arena has a band come in and they play in front of those video walls. This is this kind of quality stuff.
Absolutely. If you're doing anything that's going to be like the LED wall is going to be on camera, that's what we say, then this is the solution you should be looking at. And plus, a lot of house of worship, we want to be able to set up and tear down and create different staging looks, almost on a weekly basis. This is a product that will handle the rigors of being able to be set up and torn down, day in and day out. It's designed for that touring product in mind. So it does great when it comes to being able to be put in a road case, moved across campus, or set up, in a completely different way. And we can have rigging options available from ground stacking to, wall mounting or ceiling mounting options as well. So the versatility is almost endless with this type of product.
Yeah, let's bring this picture full screen so people can see it a little bit. So you can see that there's actually a whole kind of structure behind the panels.
Yeah.
And that's why the panels can be moved around. They can put in a case. They can be blown from, the ceilings or what have you. So there is a mechanical stability and structure to the Polaris, which is really good for house of worship, because oftentimes you may just want to use these screens for certain events. You may want to move them around depending on the time of the year and what you're setting up.
Oh, exactly. And beyond that, the product is versatile from an array standpoint. So you can do concave, convex, and concurve. So if you're wanting to get really artistic with your approach on how you're setting up your LED, whether it's a ribbon, whether it's a circle, a cylinder, whatever, you can do all that with this product. And it allows you to have full, creative capabilities from an LED standpoint. That's what's really cool about the technology now, is it's not just a single, 16 by 9 LED wall on the wall or whatever. It's something that allows you to have basically creating more of an interactive type environment, which is what we see a lot in house of worship today.
And you customize the size of the panels to what your church is and your room is. And the other thing I want to stress is that there's lots of different ways to mount these. And if you decide to get one of these walls, whether it's curved, flat, vertical, square, horizontal, we can help you with that mounting and how that goes. We know a lot of houses of worship are like architecturally, kind of protected. You don't want to mess with it, so you're going to want to fly your panels then, right? So you just go from the ceiling. And all those times, if you do one of these curved ones, which is super cool, you need a special kind of mounting, but one-stop shop. If you call Broadfield, we'll get on the phone, we'll get on the engineers, and if it's the brackets that are beyond the Absen brackets, we have partnerships with other companies who can match you those, get you those brackets. So if you want to wrap a building or make a really curved, sexy thing, you can. Let's jump into the next set of panels.
So NX is a great product. Now this is, we look at LED like video or for like Lego blocks, if you will. So the other one was basically 1/2 meter by 1/2 meter, whereas the NX is something that's really cool. Usually in LED, you see like a 27-inch panel, and those take a little bit of time when you're setting up, whereas the NX is 43 inches in diagonal. So what that equates to is that's less failure points, that's less LED panels that need to be set up for any particular project or installation.
Less seams.
Exactly. Less failure rates from that standpoint. And what we like to look at from this product is, because its refresh rate is a little bit less at 3840, it's probably not going to look the best on camera. That's why we recommend the PL series. But NX is great. So if you're not doing like any broadcasting and you just want, large LED screens in the room, this is the solution to go with. We kind of look at it from also the standpoint of NX is great for permanent installations, where PL 2.5 is great for those, set up and tear down type applications.
Or fly them from the ceiling.
Exactly. And we can also fly NX as well. It can be wall mounted. So there's tons of versatility and options that you have with both of these products.
Now I'm going to bring up something so people will see both the NXs and the PLs. We have gone 2.5. And we picked 2.5 for House of Worship because it's a little trick. 2.5 means how far away should you be to get the optimum viewing experience?
You're asking the $1 million question because you ask, 10 people, you're going to get 10 answers. But what we say is 2.5 should be about 7 times the pixel pitch. So 7 times 2.5, and some people will even say 5 times 2.5 is the viewing distance. So anywhere from like 12 to 18 feet is kind of the, okay, this is where all the pixels are going to merge together and look seamless.
So if you're on a stage, if you're on a pulpit, that's pretty much the depth that you're talking about. So even people in the first pew are going to get a crystal clear, great view of what it looks like.
Exactly. And like going back to PL, it's really important that we have something like a 2.5 mil pixel pitch. So we have that tight. So when we get that camera focusing on the pastor or maybe the band, it's not going to look super pixelated. It's going to look completely fine at that point.
Great point, because the pastor maybe will be 10 feet in front of the screen. The camera sees a depth that's different than the viewer. So that's a great point. So if you're going to have talent in front of the screen, you definitely want a pixel pitch of 2.5 or higher, which means a lower number, right?
Right, yes. We're opposite in this world. So what's really cool with that is like also Absen has a wide variety of products and pixel pitches. So if you're needing something that's a little bit beyond what we're talking about today, you can still reach out through Broadfield and we can design a solution that's completely customizable to what you're looking to accomplish.
Awesome.
Yeah. What's really cool, this is a product that we are seeing more and more house of worships integrate in from a variety of applications. This could be used for a smaller house of worship. It's our Icon X series, and it's 3 different sizes, 110-inch, 136, and then 163-inch diagonal, what we call all-in-ones. So that's all bundled together and ships in one ATA case to the dealer for installation. And what's really cool about this is you could use these as left and right screens. You can use them as center screens. They're all wall mounted, but they can also be used like in the foyer, in a cafeteria, anywhere that you would use like a traditional, 85 or whatever inch TV. You can now use one of our LED products, and that's going to last you. I think the failure rate on all of our LED products is 100,000 hours at 50% brightness. So that's over 10 years of complete on time.
And we have one of these set up in our conference room. We absolutely love it. Yeah. My seat is like at the control seat. I'm about 6 feet away from it, and I don't see it. It looks gorgeous. These are a little bit lower number, which means higher. Was it a 1.8 or 1.9?
It's a 1.27.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so super tight.
You could really be fine. I could get even closer if I wanted.
You could.
They look great. So this is something if you're going to put it in a hallway where people might be walking right in front of it, the picture's still going to look great for digital signage. Also, although the show is House of Worship, these you find in like corporate entrances for buildings now, or car dealerships will have them in the dealerships. You can really see the cars looking great. But for House of Worship, I guess you could also use this if you had a large classroom that was a very large classroom that the teacher could use as opposed to the traditional whiteboard or LED screen also.
Get rid of the projector. It's kind of our philosophy from that standpoint. And what's really cool is we got a 4K solution that's coming out a little bit later this year. So for those of you who are needing that super high resolution with LED, we have that available. But what's really cool beyond that is these have some intelligence. The series you saw before and this series have intelligence built in to where like you could point this to a web link. And so if you got your digital signage system set up to where it uses a web address, you can use that to deploy your content across campus as well. Or monitor, if you got a big multi-campus, you can monitor all your digital signage that way and do your mass deployments from that standpoint as well.
So it's cool for a house of worship. They could have some digital signage. Let's say these were the side screen that we're talking about future services, maybe a fundraiser you're doing, maybe someone who's being honored could be playing all the time while people come in and out of the church. And then when the service comes on, bang, we switch into that mode and we're doing the whole presentation. Just gorgeous screens. I can't stress enough. We use one in our conference room. Thumbs up all the way.
So as a company, we mentioned earlier that we are a manufacturer. We are based in China, but we have a strong U.S. presence that's extremely important. As we're talking about that, It's also to understand why we think, some of our all-in-one solutions are very important. All-in-one compact design, everything's included, and that's with every Absen order. You're going to get a full bill of material from the cabling, the spares, the modules, the cabinets, the whole 9 yards. Everything's going to be turnkey from an Absen perspective. Very, very easy to use as well. So we make sure that all of our products, not just the icon, are very simple, very thoughtful, very laid out, very intuitive. But not only that, but from that standpoint, you're also backed up with our award-winning customer service and support. Beyond that, fast installation and maintenance, meaning that, hey, these walls are going to go up in a very, very quick manner. Our all-in-ones usually install 2 people in about 2 hours. And then our panel-based solutions just depend on how big they are. If you're doing a concert or touring or house of worship setup, we have people that will set up, standard size walls in less than 45 minutes to an hour, and then testing on top of that. So very quick, very easy, and more beyond that. If you do have issues, we have US-based support to be able to help you out with any problems that you may have with the controller or cabling or just having any faulty problems whatsoever. We're here for that.
Another thing for those dealers out there, and even the churches, that when you get an Absen X, it also comes with some extra spare parts, like some panels. So should something happen down the road, you have that part to pop right in, and then you send the bad one back to be replaced afterwards.
Yeah.
But the first thing you do is get up and running then. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and from like an educational standpoint, we never want to throw away the module. That's like the golden thing. Everything in the LED world is batched together. So it's important that we keep those correctly. It's like if you think about it like this, if you go into your closet and you got a lot of different black outfits and like all the little variations in black that you see in your closet, LED is kind of the same way. So with that being said, when we batch products or make our LEDs in one production run, we know that they're going to look the exact same, which is really important in the LED world. And then we can do our calibration on top of that. But when it comes to repair, all you have to do is send those down to Orlando or to Walnut, California, and within 2 weeks, you're going to get your repair sent back fully matched and batched.
So I want to go on this page. We don't have to bring it full screen, but the keywords here are Absen and US. You're really dealing with a company that has its feet firmly in the United States. You have technical support here. You have white glove installation. So if you're a dealer, you don't have to worry about learning how to install this stuff, although it's great if you want to.
Yeah.
And there are courses you can take. We'd be happy to sign you up and get you trained for that. But you don't have to worry. Your customer is always going to get a great installation by experts who report directly to Absen on this. So there's a level of, I call it white glove service, that I know there's a lot of places you can get panels from.
Yeah.
And those panels might be a lot cheaper, but you don't know if you're getting panels that were mismatched from 4 different shipments. You don't know what level of quality they go under. And the other thing is that a year or two, the guy says, these are great panels. Yeah, I've sold so many of them. You'll love them. But 2 years from now, who knows? You guys have been in the States for 12 years.
Yeah.
You got a firm investment here. You said you have Orlando is one repair and manufacturer. Where's the other one?
Walnut, California.
So we got both coasts covered. You're really getting a company that's committed to success in the U.S. and committed to you as the end user, having quality and support long term in the United States. And I just can't stress that enough.
We have this internal kind of mindset. It's like we want the first project to go good, but we don't want to stop at that first project. We want your second LED wall or your third that you want to do for deployment. We're here for the long run. Like Gary said, we've been in the United States for over 12 years. And if you have to speak to one of our technicians or anything like that, we're all US based. We're here to make sure that you have success with whatever solution that you have from Absen.
Cool. So if you're the House of Worship yourself, you want to learn more about these Absen walls, give us a call at 800-323-2325. If you are a dealer, reseller, VAR, system integrator, AV integrator, someone who just buys stuff and installs it for your local House of Worship, but your real job is putting in, TVs and security systems for people's homes, whatever it is, we know in House of Worship how the House of Worships actually procure and get stuff is a little bizarre at times and goes through different stages. But you can go to broadfield.com Absen and you can get a local Absen integrator, or you can actually get set up to sign up as an integrator from Broadfield Distributing. So we really welcome dealers as well. And I want to thank you. that completed our show. I think we did a really great job.
I think so
Thank you
too.
so much.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to hearing your questions about apps and video walls. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about apps and video walls, not just in the church itself in the sanctuary,
Yeah.
but also how the video wall and how video technology can be used by churches in the event space that many churches and temples have, and how that's a way to increase revenue and increase visibility for your church. Thank you so much. This was fantastic. And the coming up next, see, this is why live is so cool. Coming up next is Ryan Snyder, Senior Product Specialist with Canon. He's going to talk about their cameras and why we recommend them in color spaces like churches. The one thing I'm going to tell you is we love the Canon cameras because at low light with odd lighting, they work better than anything else. And when you look at a house of worship with stained glass and all that other stuff, the color science of Canon can really make your video look better. But thank you very much. And on with the show. Next segment.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us again for another segment on WorshipStreamTV. Today, we are going to be talking about Canon's entire line of cameras and production equipment that is available for houses of worship and some of the key features that are being implemented to make that easier and easier for specifically houses of worship. Today, I am being joined with Ryan from Canon, and we are super excited to talk all things Canon. So, Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself and Canon to our viewers?
Well, thanks, James. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us. My name is Ryan Snyder. I'm Senior Technical Specialist for our Cinema EOS, Pro Video, and PTZ camera solutions. And over the past few years, I've been very focused on assisting our account managers with their house of worship clients, going out on demos, and loaning equipment out, evaluating it in these house of worship spaces, because that's really the only way to make sure that our products are going to work 100%. We have a full line of imaging products. That's Canon. That's who we are. We only do imaging. So from the camera side of things to the new PTZ cameras to the lensing and even down to the mirrorless cameras and creative offerings, we really have a product for every part of a production.
And I couldn't agree more. And since we're talking about the cameras that Canon offers, let's start with the PTZ cameras. We here are big fans of PTZ cameras and live streaming in general. So why don't you introduce the Canon line of PTZ cameras and some of the features that come along with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Our PTZ lineup has really kind of exploded over the past few years. PTZs in the past had kind of been pigeonholed into this very flat-looking, the depth of field per day, it's kind of surveillance kind of look to them. So when we introduced our new line of PTZs, we definitely wanted to have a higher quality to them. What's great about all of these models, the 1/2.3 inch and the 1-inch models, they are the exact same sensor block, the same lens, the same processing, and the same color profiles as our professional camcorders, like our XF605. So they present a very, very good look for creative uses at this point. Excellent low light, and that 1-inch sensor can really help you control depth of field and make it shallower than your traditional PTZs. Combining that with autofocus for face detection, combining that with very simple installation for PoE Plus or PoE Plus, depending upon the model, really allows a production to get a lot more creative shots, honestly.
No, I couldn't agree more. And you touched on the 1-inch sensor, and I kind of want to just dive into that a little bit more, because not only does it help with, like you said, low light and those kind of exposure settings, but it also gives a more cinematic feel, because as the sensor gets bigger on your cameras, your depth of field gets smaller and it looks more cinematic. It looks more broadcast. And especially when we're looking at something like the CRN 500, that is a very cost-effective price point to get a 4K 30p camera with a 1-inch sensor on it. Can you talk about some of the advantages of using a 1-inch sensor?
Well, first of all, that low light capability. Anytime you're getting the pixel wells larger, you're going to be able to get a cleaner low light imagery. We see these cameras being used from everything from crowd reaction to just dynamic shots over the service where they're just moving back and forth. When you start combining those low light situations with the exciting lighting and things like that, you're getting a camera that you just can't believe that you're looking at a robotic PTZ camera. So, the low light capability right there, just cleaning the image up and making it match with your larger, more expensive, cameras. It's a huge deal. And then that ability, anytime you utilize a longer lens, you're getting more compression out of it. You're getting natural, shallower depth of field, but that larger sensor just helps even more. So again, being able to separate your subject from the background and really place your audience attention where you want it is a huge advantage for that 1-inch sensor.
No, absolutely. And as we alluded to, there is more than just PTZ cameras when it comes to Canon. They, of course, have their cinema line of cameras available as well. Would you like to talk about some of the high-level features on the cinema line of cameras?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our cinema cameras, we've been around almost 12 years since the original C300. These are our super large sensor, absolute high-end production cameras. Two newest models, the C400 and the C80, are actually a full frame sensor. So anytime you go up to a larger sensor, you're going to have to adjust your shooting distance, and that is going to really just obliterate any backgrounds. As far as shallow depth of field, this is really where it's at. You combine that capability with our RF mount, you're able to adapt any kind of lens from RF to EF to PL lenses on there. So it gives you a lot of creativity as far as where you can place the cameras. Of course, they all have Super 35 modes, which will accommodate our very popular Cine servo lenses. And we also have autofocus available. So, for volunteers that are not necessarily the most skilled when it comes to focusing, especially focusing a fast lens with a full frame sensor, we have a lot of capabilities as far as helping them out. Face detection, eye detection, head detection, the list goes on. So it makes it very, very usable.
We're talking about making things usable, and we're talking about, again, houses of worship tend to use a lot of volunteers. And before we move on to the autofocus, I do want to just give a little bit more focus on, no pun intended, on the last bullet on this slide, which is the XC protocol. And that is a protocol for Canon cameras that works across the line of cameras. So the PTZ cameras, the cinema cameras, the camcorders, they can all use the XC protocol. And yeah, you can't move a cinema camera with it, but you can control the color or the exposure. And if we're working with volunteers that may not know the ins and outs of how a camera works, but you can have one volunteer back in the production room that does know how to color and how to properly expose, you can have your camera operators just focus on framing while the camera controller in the production room can focus on exposure and color to make sure everything matches, like you said. So I didn't want to gloss over that because that's a very, very useful thing that is available to your customers.
It's a huge advantage. XC protocol is really our unifying protocol that just brings everything together. And like you said, not only can somebody in the control room, have access to take over when they need to, they can take over focus. If they have a servo lens, they can even zoom that lens and reframe the shot if they need to. But we also give them access to a full array of broadcast like paint and shading controls that they can access.
That's great. And we touched upon this a little bit, but I wanted to dive a little bit more into the autofocus that is available with Canons because it's honestly just top notch. So why don't you talk about the autofocus a little bit here?
Sure, sure. So our 1-inch PTZs, as well as our Cinema EOS cameras, they all have what's called dual pixel CMOS AF. And essentially every single photo site on the sensor is capable of phase detection autofocus. So there's no hunting. It's very quick, very accurate, and combined with the eye detection and the new subject tracking modes in the C400 and C80, they are just, it's autofocus you can absolutely rely on. However, we certainly will have people that want to manually focus. And for those operators, we have a couple of neat tools. The first is the focus position guide, which you can see here with our squirrel friend. And so essentially what you can do with this feature, as long as you're using a servo style lens like you see on the right there, is you can set up to 3 different focus markers when you are actually in focus. You set those different colored markers, and then all you have to do is rack your focus until you reach one of those points, and then your outside frame will actually light up when you have hit that focus point. So it's great for volunteers. The band starts, they need to get a shot right up front. Well, hey, just tell them go to blue or go to red, whatever you have set there. And that's gonna be an assist tool for them. The second that we have as far as assist functions is the dual pixel focus guide, which is just a box. This can actually utilize the autofocus. So you'll have a little frame around the face or eye. And as you focus, those little lines on the box will converge. And when they get to the center and light up green, you know you've got critical focus at this point. It's a great little tool that's available for most of our lenses. And, again, it's just not only is it great for inexperienced operators, but experienced focus pullers as well.
As we've been saying throughout, you're just making it easier and easier to implement these and get a more cinematic, more broadcast feel into more houses of worship. So I think that's great that Canon offers all of these focus assist tools and again, go above and beyond. One of the things that we have been talking about, and we actually were just talking with a guest from Absen, is LED walls. And our guest was talking about things like pixel pitch and refresh rate. And coming from the video walls perspective, can you give a perspective coming from the camera's perspective and what we need to focus on from the camera's point of view to make video walls look as good as they possibly can on camera?
Sure, absolutely. And I'm glad you already got the primer for the LED wall side of things, because there's a lot that goes into that. A lot more than what I can talk to you about. But yes, as you mentioned, there's elements like pixel pitch, which is how big the actual pixels will be. If they're too small, they might not have the right amount of brightness. The smaller the pitch you go, the better, but it also drives up the cost. Same thing with the processing and the refresh rate. Faster is better, but as we know, budgets are a thing. So there's always a trade-off, and you want to get the best possible, bang for the buck there. When it comes to cameras shooting, any one of these can affect the image, and so. If you have a pixel pitch that's too large, you can start introducing moire. Well, we talked about being able to minimize that with shallow depth of field. If you, are shooting with a fast lens and you open that thing up as wide as it can go, move your talon out a little bit from the wall, then that's going to have a big effect on reducing any kind of moire that you might see. But the main thing that we see when we're doing demos is the refresh rate not matching. Ideally, you want the frequency of the capture device, the camera, that electronic shutter, you want it to be hitting exactly when the wall has refreshed properly. So you're getting a full scan. When the frequency is mismatched, what can happen is you get anything from light bands to really dark bands across the screen that can be apparent. You can also get flicker. And it's really, a combination of all of these things. It's the refresh rate not being fast enough. It could be, due to the pulse width modulation of the wall, just being out of time. And so what we have come up with is a way to eliminate that. And so we called this clear scan shutter mode. Essentially, you take the shutter menu and you switch the cameras into clear scan. And now instead of a shutter speed that you'd be operating on, now you can adjust the actual frequency of the electronic shutter. So essentially what you're doing is tricking the camera into, only capturing the good frames. And it's very, very effective in most cases. We have this available on all of our PTZ cameras. We have it available on all of our Cinema EOS cameras, and it's also on our little portable XF605 Pro camcorder.
And, we're talking again about making things as easy as we can for houses of worship. And this is something that you guys have implemented into a wide range of your cameras to make it easier. Another thing that I want to talk about just before we go into a little bit of a demo here is something that all of the Canon PTZ cameras offer that also will help with a little bit of the LED walls. Is all of the PTZ cameras have a wide color range, or HDR on some of the higher end ones as well. And that will help with exposure settings too, because if you have a bright screen behind you, sometimes it can get washed out and then your talent isn't properly exposed. Now they're underexposed, but if you have a wider color range, you have a greater chance of having both of them being properly exposed. Do you want to talk about that for a minute before we move on to this demo real quick?
Yeah, 100%. In the cinema side of things, I've always been a big proponent of better pixels and not more pixels. And that's what HDR really provides you is, brighter brights, darker darks, and everything in between. And so if you have the ability to do an HDR LED wall, we have the ability to match up with that as far as color gamuts. Our higher end PTZs and all of our Cinema EOS and Pro video cameras have both HLG as well as PQ custom picture styles. So you're right at home right off the bat with an HDR production. And again, when shooting, certain things, it'll be too bright or too dark. Our HDR outputs actually have the ability to pad that by a certain amount of dB. So if it is too bright, you can lower the output to match a better exposure for your wall.
And again, that's just great that it comes standard with the Canon cameras. And now even going on a little bit more of a tangent here with NDI6 being able to transmit some flavors of HDR, it's just a match that works so well together. Now, I believe that you have the ability to kind of show us a little bit of how this clear scan would actually work when shooting at a monitor. So we'll bring you up full screen and we'll let you do that demo real quick.
Very cool. So as far as clear scan, the toughest part about implementing it is actually finding the right frequency. You have to manually check that. So something that we've come out with on our C400 and C80 Cinema EOS cameras is the ability to do an auto clear scan where the camera will actually read the frequency of the wall. And in my experience, this has worked very, very well in almost every situation I've used. In the times it didn't, I've done an auto clear scan reading and only had to adjust a few hundredths of hertz in either direction in order to really clean up every bit of flicker. So I just wanted to demonstrate this using my home PC monitor. It is a big curved thing, so it's the closest thing that I can come to showing an LED wall here. But all you have to do in order to utilize this function is go into your camera menu and you'll see the auto clear scan setting. I'll back out of this for 1 second. If you notice down in the lower right hand, because I'm in 60p, I've got the setting already at a 59.99 hertz. Now I know this monitor is actually set at 100 hertz. It's not the greatest, so it's not at 120, but I know that this is set at 100. So I'm just going to show you that the camera is actually able to read this, and we'll do an auto clear scan. It tells you don't move the camera while you're doing this, and we're going to let the camera figure out what's going on. It's going to take a couple different readings, and look at that. Right there comes up 100 hertz flicker detected. Do you want to change the clear scan setting? We say okay, and now it locks that setting into 99 hertz. So this is It just takes the guesswork out of it. Like I said, 90% of situations I've run into, it works right off the bat. So just you talk about making it easy. That's how we make it easy.
And I was literally just going to say that too. Again, making it as easy as possible for the end user. You don't have to do any guesswork. You turn on the auto clear scan and it will tell you what the frame rate of the monitor is. And even if you are a couple of hertz off, if you don't know the technical reasons, it's going to look a lot better than what it was beforehand if you were just guessing. So
Right.
big kudos to Canon for implementing that in these cameras. Now, there's another thing that we want to talk about, which is a feature with some of the Canon cameras as well, and that is the ability to quickly, with the press of a button, change the frame rate and the output and frame rate of your camera. Can you talk about some of the benefits of that, and then we'll talk about how to implement that?
Yeah, like I said, in the past few years, we've been, going out and doing these demos. We've learned a lot, and we've incorporated, obviously, these kind of features to help out with these productions. The biggest learning lesson for me, as somebody coming from cinema and broadcast, is that there is a trend in the House of Worship side of things where they want to be able to change the frame rate during the actual service, which is unheard of when you're talking broadcast. So the reason for this is they want to use 60p as close to real life as possible for the actual message. They want their congregation to feel, if they're watching on iMag, if they're watching streaming, they want to feel like they're there and they're in the presence. However, when the worship portion comes up, the band comes up, the music starts, that's when they want to get that more cinematic type of cadence to the motion. They want a little bit more motion blur. They want a little bit of that film-like break from reality to really punctuate the creativeness of that. And so they want to be able to do that fast on the fly. The issue with doing that, at least in a broadcast side of things, is all of these cameras are connected to a switcher, and they hopefully are all gen locked together. If you change the actual frame rate, well, there's going to be glitches. There's going to be it's going to interrupt the actual feed. So they must be able to do this seamlessly. And so what we've done is we've incorporated basically called a pull down feature. And the camera remains in 60 frames per second. However, when you want to switch over, we activate this option in the menu. It's that output 16 to 6024 or 30. And you have the option to do either. And the video output is now going to appear to be in that lower frame rate. So essentially, we're just throwing away either 30 frames or throwing away either 36 frames out of that 60 frame stream. So there's no interruption whatsoever to the switcher. The switcher still sees it as 60p, and you get the benefit of being able to switch back and forth at will.
And we're talking about being able to do that at will. And I kind of skipped ahead a little bit here.
Yeah.
You have the ability to show just how easy this is to do, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm going to
we'll bring you up full screen again, and then you can show us.
Right. So you can see that my on-screen display here, you see how well that face detection is working as well. So up in the, you can see here, our base frame rate is at 60p. And so I'm giving you 60p. However, if you look right next to the sensor size here, Super 35, when I activate this, will be essentially in 24. And so I'm going to have a little bit of motion going on, and I'm going to activate that pull down now. And you should be able to see that there is definitely a change in that cadence in that motion. So I'll take it off.
Definitely see it. Yep.
Back to 60. And I'm just going to activate that assignable button one more time. And we have that 24. So seamless switching, and you have basically two different looks out of the single camera position.
I think that is an excellent feature that, again, Canon offers. You've said this a few times today. You take feedback from customers and you implement it in with new updates, new features, and I think that is really, really great. I want to say thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today to talk about Canon's entire range of cameras, as well as some of these new features that are available for specifically houses of worship. One thing that we always like to do is we like to give our guests the final word. So if there's anything that you would like to say, the floor is yours.
Well, Dave, just thank you so much for having Canon and myself on here. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I really enjoy working with our House of Worship clients. It's really fun to help them figure out new and creative shots in order to, obviously engage their congregation and reach out to new members of the community. So really just having a great time here. And if you have any questions about products, obviously contact you, and really look forward to seeing everybody out in the field.
All right. Thank you again to all of our viewers. If you do have any questions, feel free to give us a call and we will answer as many as we can. And if we don't know the answer, we'll get someone like Ryan involved to get the answer for you. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned for some more great content coming up soon. Thank you.
Great job. Before we went into that segment, I told you why I think Canon cameras are especially good for houses of worship. I think after seeing that segment, you know why they give you a little bit of an edge with that Canon color space. But now I want to dive into something a little bit different. And money makes the world go round. And I know this is the House of Worship segment. We're talking about, increasing your flock, increasing your message, and how having a more engaging, more multimedia service can have your younger people, older people, people who are not there come in. But I want to talk about something else, and that is over the last year or so, we've been approached by a lot of houses of worship who actually are talking about their event rooms, their catering halls, their revenue, the spaces where they do their weddings, the bar mitzvahs, where they have ceremonies, where they have special dinners, and they honor, fundraisers and stuff like that. And we really wanted to talk about those spaces because what the people who called us were asking about was, how can I get more out of this space? How can I make this space more functional? How can I create more revenue from this space to help offset other costs and other missions that we have in our house of worship? So let's talk about that. Many houses of worship, in addition to having your cathedral, what do you have? Your temple, your mosque, your synagogue, what do we call this, the main room where we have a church worship? Chapel, there we go. Drawing a blank. Your chapel, that's a big open room with seats, and we know how that looks. But oftentimes, you'll have an event space that can be 50 by 50, a ton of square footage, where you're having people have parties, you're doing catering, often there's a stage, there's performances. Well, that space can be really benefited by investing in some video technology as well that can make the space, A, more available, more valuable, and also allow through streaming the ability to see what's going on in that space who can't be there. So let's talk about that a little bit. Live streaming and recording. Well, a lot of the gear that we're already talking to you about, like let's say you want to put a TriCaster to run your service. Well, you can use that service, that TriCaster also to be watching PTZ cameras and streaming a show from within your event space. You can put a single PTZ camera up there, even if you just want to be able to record and watch what's going on, to be able to stream it to people who are not there. Or if you have multiple spaces where you might have a waiting room or a overflow room, you could have a TV in there showing the show. So things to think about for live streaming recording, house of worship outside of the actual church itself, but in the event space. PTZ cameras, absolutely 100%. We have PTZ cameras indoors, outdoors, different throws, which means, a 30x is from what's in the back of the room, a 10x is a wider view when it's right in front of the stage. We have encoders that can allow you to stream remotely, like a live view encoder. So if you're doing things outdoors, maybe your house of worship has a beautiful grounds in it, and you want to show some stuff from the grounds where you have gardens or you have an outdoor archway, a thinking, a meditation park, whatever it is. You can take video from there. And then, of course, you can use your existing video mixer, or you can say, hey, we're thinking about buying a TriCaster or an Epiphan or a video mixing solution, and we want to use it both for our services as well as for our ceremonies and our events and our celebrations. So I want you to really think about that, because it's a way to make your space more valuable. And how does that value come in? Well, multi-camera productions, you know, the kids are dancing, they're doing their thing. If you have 2 or 3 cameras in that room and you're cutting between the cameras, that's a value you can add, that you can either offer that where you have someone who's a volunteer on hand who does that mixing, or perhaps you just make it available that when the DJ comes in, he has access to your equipment and he can use your equipment to do the multi-camera stuff. And those videos can be used inside the venue or to stream outside. You know, people want to watch the wedding who can't make it. Grandma's in Arizona and she can't make it up to Chicago to see the wedding. Well, maybe she wants to see all the fun celebration and stuff too. So why not have that be something that could be streamed as well and recorded for all posterity? And what's cool about that is one of the ways we really found out about this was one of our local DJs came to us and said, you know, we are trying to work with one of the houses of worship in our area, and we're talking about doing a video wall that we'd like to permanently install it in there. And when we would go do our events in there, we obviously wouldn't pay an extra fee for it, but they would be able to use that video wall to get an extra fee from other DJs who wanted to use it. We would always be the people who set it up and got it working, but it would be available for not just us. So he had a hook into that catering facility. The catering facility had a value add, and everyone ended up making more money from it. And what's really cool about that, pull this up full screen, because I think it really shows you how clever. People are using the screens for the kids to dance in front of them. Maybe it's behind the DJ or the band. Maybe the screen is what's behind the dais, showing the highlights of everything. The beauty of these big LED screens is they can fill a whole room with these lights. You can see them beautifully. Everything looks crisp and clear. And like we talked about earlier in the show about dot pitch, if you've got a 2.5 dot pitch, then people can stand in front of it. And if they're videotaping, so if you've got a videographer who's videotaping, you know, the whole ceremony, the whole celebration, when he pans in front of those screens, it's going to look great. It's going to look fantastic, as good as the still image you see behind me here. So it's a great way to create a more dynamic and modern atmosphere, and it's a hook to get people to want to use your event space versus other people's. And event spaces can also be used not just for the religious events that go on a temple or a church, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a christening, a confirmation, but why not use it to reach out for your community, where your community can use it for, you know, local companies and nonprofits and community organizations. You could have your local theater group maybe once before there, or maybe you could have a battle of the bands, or you can host conferences and seminars and even corporate events. It can maximize the facility usage beyond religious services. So maybe even during the week, you can have companies, if they want to use it to do a multimedia full, you know, the whole rigmarole, you know, they can. And once again, with the beauty of some of the technologies we've shown you throughout the entire worship stream, NDI is a technology that means if you've got a TriCaster in one room in the church and you've got it on a network, every single device that's NDI that plugs into that network will have access. The TriCaster will have access to it, and it'll fully communicate. So you're not running wires all over the place. Through PoE, you can power the PTZ cameras from the same network jack we're talking about. So this isn't a big complex installation, but from the same TriCaster that produces the service every Sunday, you can have someone sitting there and producing the whole celebration that's in the event room. And if you have multiple event rooms, we can still handle that, because you can put your cameras in the different event rooms and decide which one's going to get that TriCaster or not, or which one's going to get the video wall. And I want to get back to that video wall, because should I wait for the Q&A on the video wall or jump into the question that came up? I'm going to jump into it. One of the people pinged us and said, you know, our house of worship, we want to put a big sign outside, you know, so when people come by the highway, they can see what's going on. And apparently one of the houses of worship in their area has a sign that looks pretty, it's good, but I'm sorry. It's good, but it's not great. It looks good when you're driving by the highway and you see it, but when you get up close on the grounds, it doesn't look as good. And they want something that's higher resolution outdoor. And I just want to let everyone know that we have access to Absen outdoor screens at all different pitches as well. And those can be used for things like scoreboards or just messaging and digital signage outdoors. So I just wanted to say that, absent house of worship screens can be in the church itself, behind the pulpit and for the event. It can be in overflow rooms. It can be in celebration and catering spaces. And they can also be outside your building or in your lobbies as well. There's a lot of different areas where a video wall can really enhance the engagement of your community and your congregation. And then the last thing I want to talk about, I know it's not really worship, it's a little morbid, but we have gotten a lot of requests for our technology from funeral parlors and cemeteries because there are people who can't travel and make it to the funeral, but who still want to participate and honor and remember and be there for the service. So we have funeral halls putting PTZ cameras, one camera in the back of the room so they can stream live to people. And then we've also had a few cemeteries who put live view units where they actually have the ability now where they don't have to, they use cell service in the video of the live view so they can bring the graveside services to those people who can't be there. Once again, it's just something we've seen that's come in and come about. I don't really know if funerals and cemetery services go to house of worship, but I know anytime you go there, there's a priest or a rabbi or a chaplain. So we thought it would be good to throw that in the show. So anyone is thinking about that, we have goods that we have video technology that is for that. It's not for entertainment purposes. It's really, just so that those who can't be there can join in the celebration of the life of the person that was. So that brings us to the end of our show. Q&A for this show. Each day we've had some Q&As. We get any Q&As at all? Today we didn't get a lot of Q&As. That's okay. We still had a good turnout for the show. We appreciate everyone who came in. Does that mean we're going to go straight to the prizes? And am I announcing the prize winners or is someone else? I'm going to announce some prizes. So just give me a few seconds. Let the team get the prize graphics all set up for us. All right, look at that. Who won the Bird Dog X1? The winner, Keith C. from North Carolina. That's great. I hope that'll go great with your house of worship. One of the things that I like about the X1 is it's wireless. And I know we talked about this on the other shows, but by being a wireless device means you can put it in the house of worship. You don't have to worry about drilling holes, running any wires or anything. I know a lot of houses of worship are very, very valuable architecture, internal architecture there. And sometimes you might have rules that we're just not installing hardware. And this is a way to get that camera in there via the Wi-Fi. So great job. Oh, look at that. We have a TriCaster Vector, operational examiners. Now, what this means is people can take the training for free. And now if they win this, they get to take the test. And if they pass the test, they are an operator. Oh, I didn't announce who. Oh, yeah. So Joe W. from Walden, New York, Bill D. from Camarillo, California, and David P. from Burlington, Vermont won. I want to talk about this a little bit, this prize. Did I do something wrong? What is so cool about being someone who passed this test? If you are a certified TriCaster user and you belong to your house of worship or you don't, you could actually make a little money on the side saying, for a couple $100, I'll produce your event. And I know a lot of young people, high school, college students who are earning a nice little side hustle as TriCaster operators in different areas and locations where they just fill in when the regular operators out there, or some of them even have a regular gig for the church. And of course, some of them volunteer because that's the kind of people they are. But I just wanted to say that it's cool to be a certified operator. Our guys are, and congratulations to you guys who won that. Next, the PT Optics Studio 4K winner is Krista L. from Leicester, Iowa, $1,000 value. I love this camera. This is the camera we have set up in our conference room. It looks great, great depth of field, beautiful camera. Congratulations to you on the Studio 4K. And then I want to thank all our guests.
We did have one question.
Oh, wait, we're going back to the Q&A. I love a late question. What do we got?
Someone is asking if you think QR codes would be beneficial in the house of worship space.
Yes, I do. I love QR codes. And I'm going to talk about QR codes, not in the event space per se, but I'm also on my board of education, and we use QR codes to communicate with our community. So we'll put the QR code on any of our flyers or mailers, but also a QR code that's on any kind of screen, be it a LED video wall or any screen, is a great way for kids to point their phones at and go to wherever they are. It's such a convenient thing to do. And in fact, what's funny is You can even embed a QR code on the liquid ink that's on the side of those bird dogs, and then it can tell you can scan it, and it'll give you all your setup information for that camera wherever you set it up. So QR codes, cool, use them, they're great, and it's a good way to communicate a lot of information to people with one easy to scan button. And if you're trying to get young people, they take the QR codes like nothing. I know me, it takes me 13 tries to focus on it, and I hit the wrong button, but I know my nephews get right in there every time. Now can I thank our guests, guys? I want to thank all our guests. This is in the order that's on the sheet. We love them all. Jeremy Morris from BizRT, Dan Miali from Bird Dog, Mark Ma from Killaview, Paul Richards from PTZ Optics, Peyton Thomas from Panasonic, Jessica Sanders from Absen, Ryan Snyder from Canon, me, myself, Jim, and Jim, who helped on the show also. Thank you guys so much for Worship Stream. This was our third annual Worship Stream. We're definitely going to have one next year. Let's get to 5 and 10. If you're a house of worship, if you're looking to do video and for video technology, give us a call. We will help you with it. And we also, if you have a big installation, it's a big project, we have a network of dealers throughout the country who can help you get installed, train you, wiring, everything you need. Whatever your level of video is, whatever the size of your church, whatever the size of help you want, give us a call. We will connect you with the right people to get going on all the technologies you saw here today and on any of our other programs that we carry. Thank you so much. This is Gary Batan, your host for Worship Stream. Peace and love.